Well, after a more than year-long investigation, the Inspector General will soon release its explosive report detailing how the FBI and the Justice Department mishandled the Clinton email probe while also probing President Trump. President Trump and House Republicans are accusing the DOJ of stonewalling lawmakers who are looking into the FBI's actions during the 2016 presidential election. The Justice Department says about 1,000 new pages are being turned over by tomorrow morning. This all comes amid new questions about the document that launched the FBI's Russia investigation in the first place. Joining me right now is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Trey Gowdy. He also sits on the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Mr. Chairman, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
So we want to talk about where we stand right now. I'd like to get your take on that. I want to be clear. There are two different requests from Congress. One is the Bob Goodlatte subpoena. That's the one he subpoenaed. He talked about that on this program. And the FBI has responded by saying they're going to double the number of people getting those documents to you and your colleagues, including Bob Goodlatte. The other one is members of the committee want to see the FISA information to review fully unredacted electronic communication. What are you expecting to see? What do you want to see from that electronic communication, sir?
Well, I think one of the requests is from Devin Nunes. That is the document that kind of initiated the entire investigation. I've actually seen it. I saw a heavily redacted version. I saw a less redacted version, but I have not seen a clean version. And I need to know what's behind those black lines, because it's really important how this investigation began, when it began, and what is the weight, what is the credibility of the evidence upon which this investigation was launched. And the Department of Justice and the FBI have that document. They won't let us see the clean version, and I'm struggling to understand why.
So when you look at the unredacted version versus the redacted version, I mean, something really struck me recently, whereas we saw one unredaction, and it was about this cocktail party that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were talking about, that a FISA judge, Judge Contreras, was going to be at. And Peter Strzok wanted to go to that party so that he could talk with Judge Contreras, all while they were trying to get this FISA warrant to spy on people from the Trump campaign. So that raises the question, well, if they were redacting something about a party where he was going to go meet a FISA judge, that's not national security, is it?
No, that's embarrassment, and that is not a sufficient reason to redact anything, is that the FBI and the department might be embarrassed. So that's why we want to see the clean version, and if there's a national security issue, we want it redacted. But most of what they send us now looks like an ink blot test, the Rorschach ink blot test. And we can't figure out what's behind the black paragraphs. And if it's just the embarrassment of the Bureau, I hate it. But that is not a sufficient reason to withhold that information from Congress.
And after Bob Goodlatte's subpoena, the FBI responded and said, look, we're going to double the number of people working on this. And with all due respect, I appreciate the candor there and the response, but there were 26 people working on it. If they're going to double that to 54, with 26 people, they had 3,000 documents. With 54, does that mean they're going to have 6,000 documents? I mean, we're talking about more than 1 million documents. Was that the right response to say we're going to double the number of people? And do you think that's going to be effective?
No, ma'am. I made an F in my last math class, but I think anything times 0 is 0. So if it's 26 agents and we're getting nothing, and if it's 52 agents and we're getting nothing, the result is the same. I mean, I don't care how many agents are working on it. It's really simple. You gave 1 million pages to the Inspector General. So take out the grand jury material and give us what's left. It is impossible. I want to be able to support the FBI and DOJ. But the world's premier law enforcement agency can't seem to operate a damn copying machine. That is inexplicable. I cannot help them explain 1 million documents to the Inspector General and a fraction of that to the entity who created and funds the FBI. So they're going to have to do better than 1,000 pages here and there. President Trump picked every one of these decision makers. Every one of them he picked. So I appreciate the tweets, the encouraging tweets to these folks. There might be a more efficient way of communicating. So if Congress is entitled to this information, we shouldn't get it in 1,000-page increments. The Inspector General has 1 million pages.
Yeah, that's really interesting that President Trump chose many of these people in these leadership positions. What is that to say? You would think that they want to be independent thinking and they want to respond to Congress, as they should. And yet the stonewalling seems so obvious.
Yeah, well, we don't grade based on effort at this stage in life. We don't grade based on participation. I grade based on results. You gave Michael Horowitz 1 million pages, okay? Take out the grand jury material. We're not entitled to it. It's legally protected. If there's another legal argument for any of the other documents, make that argument. But it should be 1 million minus grand jury and then turn over the rest to Congress. And we've gotten, what, a couple thousand pages, and we've been at this for about 5 months? I can tell you this, Maria, every member I have talked to is frustrated. Some of us have actually been somewhat muted in expressing our frustration because we want the documents and not the drama. But I can tell you, come next week, I talked to Chairman Goodlatte 2 days ago. We are tired of being patient. We want the information, or we want a really good explanation for why you're not producing it.
So what if you don't get it? What do you have? What tool do you have to actually demand that you actually get what you should be looking at? What happens next week?
We have 3 tools. We can bring them in. We can bring the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the head of the FBI in before really frustrated members of Congress, and they can explain publicly to us why they gave the Inspector General 1 million pages of material, and they've given us a fraction of that. We can call John Culbertson, who controls the funding for the Department of Justice and the FBI, because that seems to get their attention, or the person who actually hired Jeff Sessions, actually hired Chris Wray, actually hired Rod Rosenstein, and who, by the way, also controls the executive branch, might want to communicate to them that he is displeased.
Yeah, I can understand why you want to see the electronic communications, because during the 2016 election, it was quite an extraordinary period, as we all know. There were 2 investigations going on. There was an investigation into Hillary Clinton's email usage, and then there was an investigation into Donald Trump and his campaign and whether or not there was collusion with the Russians. The same people at the FBI were working on both of those investigations, those same people who were incredibly biased, we know now, because we've seen the text messages about name-calling for Trump, that they really need Hillary Clinton to win, or they need an insurance policy. Those people were working on those investigations, like Andrew McCabe, until a week before the election, Chairman.
Yeah, Andy McCabe was, and then he was recused. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, unless something's happened since you and I have been on air, they're still employed by the FBI. Now, Comey's gone, McCabe's gone, Rybicki's gone, but some of the folks are still there, which is a pretty good question. How can you keep your job evidencing that amount of animus, not just bias, animus towards the target of your investigation? So there is a plausible, defensible reason why Congress, you've already got a U.S. attorney from Utah looking into this. You've already got the Inspector General. With all due respect to both of them, they didn't create the FBI. They don't fund the FBI, and they don't have a constitutional responsibility to provide oversight. We do. And we can't do it if you give us a fraction of the documents that you give to the Inspector General.
Yeah, that's a point that Devin Nunes made in the last hour. The Congress created the FBI and the Department of Justice. Let me ask you this, because those people who are still working at the FBI, they still have security clearance, don't they?
I would imagine it's really tough to be an FBI agent and not have access to sensitive information. I guess unless you're an intern, and I don't think they're in the intern program.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
They're FBI agents.
So the last time we spoke, you wanted to see a second special counsel. Give me your thoughts on U.S. Attorney John Huber investigating the actions here. Jeff Sessions deciding not to do a special second counsel and putting John Huber on the case, this prosecutor. Your thoughts there real quick. And do you think ultimately we still could see a second special counsel?
I think we could see special counsel. I am going to withhold final judgment. This is someone who's not part of Main Justice, so that's good. That was our primary complaint, that Main Justice could not do it. We wanted special counsel, and particularly if there's going to be a criminal referral, which I'm not assuming there is, but if there is a criminal referral, I would like to see a special counsel appointed. This is a good interim first step. I've defended Attorney General Sessions when it was kind of lonely to do so. The failure to produce documents is indefensible. The picking of a U.S. attorney in Utah is defensible, even though I disagree with it.
By the way, before you go, do you think we're going to see criminal referrals out of this IG report, the Michael Horowitz report?
You could. Anytime I see a lack of candor, that is Latin sometimes for false statement. And, you know, there are a lot of people in the Mueller probe that have been walking in front of judges pleading guilty to making a false statement. I'm not presuming anything. I'm not prejudging anything. I really am waiting on Michael Horowitz's report. But if there's a lack of candor and a duty, particularly under oath, to be candid, then you may see criminal referrals. All
right, we will wait for that. We are all anticipating the IG report. Congressman, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We appreciate all that you're doing here, Chairman Trey Gowdy. Meanwhile, National Guard troops on the move right now to the southern border.